Have you ever sat in a crowded room and felt invisible? Have you ever poured your heart out to someone only to be met with silence? Or scrolled through your phone hoping someone, anyone, would remember you exist? That aching feeling of being forgotten, it doesn't just whisper, it stings. It echoes in the spaces where love used to live and where connection used to bloom. But what if I told you that you're not alone, and that the feeling of being forgotten might actually be one of the greatest invitations to discover your strength? You see, the Stoics, those ancient thinkers like Marcus Aurelius Seneca and Epictetus, faced exile, betrayal, isolation, and abandonment. Yet their wisdom didn't just survive, it comforted souls across centuries. Because they didn't run from loneliness, they looked it in the eye and asked, "What are you here to teach me?" In this video, we're going on a journey, a healing, empowering journey through the wisdom of the Stoics, designed for those who feel unseen, unheard, and left behind. And you'll walk away with 3 essential things. Stoic quotes that speak directly to the heart of your isolation, timeless words that will feel like a hand on your shoulder. A reframing of loneliness, not as a punishment, but as a powerful place of growth, clarity, and unshakable self-trust. A shift in how you see yourself, not as someone forgotten, but as someone being forged in quiet. But before we dive into the Stoic teachings, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever wondered why silence sometimes feels louder than any noise? Why some people who once claimed to care now disappear without warning? Why no matter how kind, loyal, or giving you are, you still end up alone at the end of the day? If you've asked those questions, this message is for you. Before we explore the first Stoic quote that might just change your entire outlook, let's step into a real story, one that echoes the silent struggles so many carry but never speak of. Because behind every "I'm fine" is often a heart screaming for understanding. And if that's you today, stay with me, because in the quiet spaces of our pain, there is ancient wisdom waiting, and what you're about to hear might just be the anchor you've needed all along. Let's begin. Have you ever noticed that loneliness doesn't always come from being alone, but from feeling unseen? You could be surrounded by people yet still feel invisible. You could be in a relationship yet feel completely misunderstood. It's not the physical aloneness that breaks us, it's our interpretation of it. The Stoic. Philosopher Epictetus said something profoundly simple. It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about things. And when you apply that to loneliness, everything shifts. Meet Daniel. Daniel is 41, recently divorced. His kids live across the country. His work, though stable, feels like an endless loop of meaningless tasks. He comes home to silence, cooks, for one, and falls asleep scrolling through old photos that once made him feel loved. On one particular evening, he sat in the dark after dinner, and the thought hit him like a wave. No one would notice if I disappeared. But that same week, he stumbled on a book of Stoic meditations at a local bookstore almost by accident. He read the quote, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Daniel paused. Could it be that the pain wasn't just in the silence itself, but in what he believed the silence meant? He believed silence meant he was forgotten, that the quiet house meant he was unworthy, that being alone meant he had failed. But what if he challenged those judgments? What if silence simply meant space for healing? What if the empty house was an invitation to rediscover himself, not a punishment, but a pause? What if his solitude was not abandonment, but refinement? Daniel began shifting his inner narrative. He started walking every morning, not with music blaring in his ears, but with presence. He began journaling, cooking intentionally, even lighting a candle for himself. At dinner, he wasn't pretending the loneliness wasn't real. He was changing how he interpreted it, and slowly, the pain started to lose its power. You see, this is what Stoicism offers. Not the denial of suffering, but the reframing of suffering. It hands us the lens through which we choose to see what happens to us. And that choice? It changes everything. So, here's my gentle challenge for you right now. What judgments are you placing on your aloneness? Are you calling it abandonment when it might be realignment? Are you naming it rejection when it might be redirection? This isn't about pretending. Everything's okay. It's about reclaiming the truth beneath the pain. You are not alone in your aloneness. And as we keep moving forward, we'll discover more Stoic truths that hold your heart and lift your spirit, even in the silence. But first, I want to ask you something that might surprise you. What if the very thing that feels like loss is the soil for your deepest transformation? Let's find out together. Inspired by Seneca and echoed later by Viktor Frankl. There's a moment in life when the pain becomes so sharp, so relentless, that even breathing feels heavy. It's not physical pain, it's the ache of existing without purpose, of waking up and asking, why am I still here if no one needs me? Seneca once wrote, if one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. Think about that for a second. If we drift without a sense of direction, especially during seasons of loneliness, then every hardship feels pointless. Every silence feels like rejection. Every unanswered message confirms the lie that we don't matter. But here's what the Stoics knew. When you anchor yourself to purpose, even in isolation, you become immovable. Let me tell you about Naomi. Naomi is 58. She retired early from teaching, expecting her adult children to visit more, to call to stay close. But life got busy for them and quiet for her. Days turned into months. Birthdays passed with a simple text. She sat beside a dining table meant for 6, now used for bills and unopened mail. One afternoon, while reorganizing old books, she found a dusty journal from her early years of teaching. Inside were thank you notes from students, words like, "You believed in me when no one else did. You were the only one who noticed I was struggling. You saved my life." Naomi sat down and wept, not out of sorrow, but out of remembering. She realized something powerful. Her impact didn't vanish. It echoed. She was never just a teacher, she was a lighthouse. And lighthouses don't move just because no ships are near. They shine anyway. That moment sparked a change. She began writing again, letters to former students, short reflections she shared online, even offering to tutor kids in her neighborhood for free. No spotlight, no applause, just purpose and something. Miraculous happened. The ache of being forgotten began to fade. Because she remembered herself. This is what Seneca meant. Purpose doesn't eliminate pain, but it gives pain meaning. When you remember your why, you become stronger than the how. So I want to ask you this. What did you forget about yourself in the silence? What gift did you bury because no one clapped for it? What light did you dim because you thought no one needed it? Let today be the day you remember your why, not for applause, not for likes, but because you matter even when no one's watching. The Stoics didn't teach us how to avoid loneliness. They taught us how to stand tall in it, because standing alone with meaning cares better than being surrounded in confusion. And the truth is, your purpose might be hiding in the very place you've been trying to escape. But what happens when that sense of purpose begins to grow and people still leave? There's a Stoic answer for that too. Let's go deeper. There is a kind of silence that hurts more than words ever could. It's the silence that follows a betrayal, the quiet after someone leaves, not with an explanation but with avoidance, not with honesty but with distance, the kind that makes you question, was I ever really known? Or worse, was I ever really loved? But Marcus Aurelius offers a truth that pierces through that grief. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The moment we place our peace in other people's actions, we give them control over our hearts. And when they leave, when they forget, when they break promises, we collapse. Because we weren't just holding on to them, we were holding our sense of worth inside their hands. Let me share Elijah's story. He's 36, thought he met the one. Someone who understood his quirks, laughed at his dry humor, talked about dreams and kids and growing old. But after 3 years, out of nowhere, she said she needed space. Then, she never came back. No fight, no closure. Just the cold hum of unanswered texts and a heart left wide open. Elijah spiraled. He kept rereading conversations, checking social media, wondering what he did wrong. Until one sleepless night, he opened a book his late grandfather once gave him, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The page he turned to read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." It felt cruel at first. How could he have control over anything when he felt so discarded? But as he sat with those words, something softened. He realized he couldn't control why she left, but he could control what he made it mean. He stopped chasing closure from someone who never intended to offer it. He stopped replaying the what-ifs and started asking himself a new question. How do I want to treat myself now? He began waking up early to run, not to escape the pain, but to meet it with strength. He unfollowed her, not out of spite, but self-respect. He started therapy not to fix himself, but to understand himself. Slowly, the pieces began to return, not of the relationship, but of himself. This is what Marcus meant. You don't need to control what others do. You just need to control how you carry yourself after they do it. Because you are not defined by who left, you are defined by who you become after. And the greatest form of healing is to no longer let the one who left continue to occupy space in your soul rent-free. So if you're watching this with a heart heavy from being ghosted, betrayed, or forgotten, breathe this in. They may have left, but your peace doesn't have to. And as we move forward, the next Stoic insight will show you how to turn solitude into strength, not just emotionally, but spiritually. Because the final stage of loneliness is often the birthplace of clarity. Let's continue. There is a kind of silence that hurts more than words ever could. It's the silence that follows a betrayal. The quiet after someone leaves. Not with an explanation, but with avoidance. Not with honesty, but with distance. The kind that makes you question, was I ever really known? Or worse, was I ever really loved? But Marcus Aurelius offers a truth that pierces through that grief. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The moment we place our peace in other people's actions, we give them control over our hearts. And when they leave, when they forget, when they break promises, we collapse. Because we weren't just holding on to them, we were holding our sense of worth inside their hands. Let me share Elijah's story. He's 36. Thought he met the one. Someone who understood his quirks, laughed at his dry humor, talked about dreams and kids and growing old. But after 3 years, out of nowhere, she said she needed space. Then, she never came back. No fight, no closure. Just the cold hum of unanswered texts and a heart left wide open. Elijah spiraled. He kept rereading conversations, checking social media, wondering what he did wrong. Until one sleepless night, he opened a book his late grandfather once gave him, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The page he turned to read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." It felt cruel at first. How could he have control over anything when he felt so discarded? But as he sat with those words, something softened. He realized he couldn't control why she left, but he could control what he made it mean. He stopped chasing closure from someone who never intended to offer it. He stopped replaying the what-ifs and started asking himself a new question. How do I want to treat myself now? He began waking up early to run, not to escape the pain, but to meet it with strength. He unfollowed her, not out of spite, but self-respect. He started therapy not to fix himself, but to understand himself. Slowly, the pieces began to return, not of the relationship, but of himself. This is what Marcus meant. You don't need to control what others do. You just need to control how you carry yourself after they do it. Because you are not defined by who left, you are defined by who you become after. And the greatest form of healing is to no longer let the one who left continue to occupy space in your soul rent-free. So if you're watching this with a heart heavy from being ghosted, betrayed, or forgotten, breathe this in. They may have left, but your peace doesn't have to. And as we move forward, the next Stoic insight will show you how to turn solitude into strength, not just emotionally, but spiritually, because the final stage of loneliness is often the birthplace of clarity. Let's continue. What if the silence you're sitting in isn't punishment? What if it's an invitation? There's a certain kind of aloneness that no one talks about. It comes after the storm, after the breakup, the job loss, the funeral, the betrayal. It's not just sadness, it's the blank space afterward. The echo, the quiet you didn't ask for. But Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who bore the weight of war, disease, and death all around him, didn't run from the silence. He leaned into it. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Let that sink in. Your soul is not a place of weakness, it's a refuge. Now imagine this, a small cabin deep in the mountains. No phone signal, no noise, just you and your thoughts. For most it sounds unbearable, but for a Stoic, it's sacred. I want to introduce you to Vanessa. She was 32 when everything collapsed. Her father passed suddenly. Her fiancé called off the wedding. Her best friend moved to another state. Within 3 months, her life emptied out. At first, she resisted the silence. She binge-watched, overate, scrolled for hours. Anything to not be alone with her thoughts, but the loneliness kept knocking. And eventually, she opened the door. One evening, while walking alone through a nearby park, she stopped beneath a tree and simply sat. No music, no distraction, just presence. She began doing this every day. What started as escape soon became sacred. She journaled, she prayed, she wept, she meditated. And day by day she realized she wasn't broken. She was being rebuilt, because that's the truth Stoicism teaches so powerfully. What the world calls emptiness is often just space for something new to grow. Vanessa began to notice things again. The rustling of the wind, the taste of her tea, the feel of the sun on her skin. Life hadn't stopped, only her attention to it had, and with each quiet moment, she found a retreat in her own soul. Not a retreat to run away from the world, but a retreat to return stronger. She later told her, "Friend, I used to think being alone meant no one wanted me. Now I know it just means I'm being invited to want myself again." Friend, if you're in that silent place now, where your phone is dry, your nights are long, and your mind races, it's okay. You're not broken. You're not forgotten. You're being carved out, shaped, refined. The Stoics didn't see solitude as a curse. They saw it as the clearest mirror, the place where false identities fall away and the truest self is revealed. So here's what I want you to remember. The world may forget you. People may leave you. But your soul, your innermost place, is always waiting to welcome you home. And as we come into the final section, we'll tie all of this together. And I'll leave you with a message you were never meant to miss. Let's finish strong. So, let me ask you now, after everything we've walked through together, was it really about being forgotten? Or was it about finally remembering yourself? You came into this video carrying the heavy weight of feeling invisible. You clicked play not because you were curious, but because something inside you whispered, "I need this, and I want you," to know you were right to listen. We began this journey with a question: what does it mean to be forgotten? And the Stoics have helped us answer it, not with fantasy, but with fire-tested wisdom. Epictetus reminded us that our suffering is shaped more by our thoughts than by the events themselves. Seneca showed us that without a why, even the smallest burdens feel unbearable. Marcus Aurelius taught us that we can't control who leaves, but we can control what we do with their absence. And perhaps most beautifully, he led us home to the quiet sanctuary of our soul where peace isn't given, it's chosen. And maybe that's why you're here, not because you're weak, not because no one cares, but because you were ready to start choosing yourself again, ready to reframe the silence, ready to step out of the shadows of abandonment, ready to turn this cold chapter of isolation into the sacred ground where your next self begins to bloom, you. See, the truth is, no one ever really forgets a soul that shines. Maybe they stopped calling. Maybe they stopped seeing your worth. Maybe the room went quiet and the text stopped coming. But that doesn't mean your light went out, it just means they stopped looking for it. You are not less valuable because others walked away. You are not less lovable because someone couldn't. Handle your depth. You are not forgotten. You are being set apart. And now, you have a choice. You can close this video and slip back into the scrolling, the numbing, the silence, or you can sit with what you've heard. Let it move through you. Let it heal the ache. Let it reignite the fire that life tried to dim. If this message spoke to you, if you felt even one moment where your heart whispered, "That's me," then please don't keep it to yourself. Comment below with just 3 words. "I'm still here." Let that be your anchor, your declaration, your sacred reminder that even in the silence, you're choosing to show up. And if this journey helped you breathe a little deeper, think a little clearer, or stand a little taller, subscribe and share it with someone who might need it just as much as you did, because healing begins when truth is spoken and continues when it's shared. You were never truly forgotten. You were simply being called back to yourself. And now that you're here, you are ready to rise.